Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'm here today with a Folio Basics 101, I guess. I get a lot of questions on how do I come up with my ideas for my folios. This is what it looks like. So all of this turns into something beautiful. So the things that you need for your folio, you're going to need your cover, and on the inside you're going to need, some flips, some flaps, maybe a waterfall. So I have an example of a waterfall. This is just your standard waterfall, and there are several different ways in how you can put a waterfall together. I use the method of just butting it right up against the page in front of it. Some people like to put their waterfall on a separate piece of cardstock and then glue that cardstock in. Oh no, that just made it worse. Great. I have used that method in the past, but this one's easier and quicker now that I just ruined that. Okay. And then you can have an accordion, which is this right here, and it's just like a pull-out accordion booklet. And then you have your flips and your flaps. Flips and flaps are pretty much the same thing. It's just one little piece that you can either have it, if you have one coming open that way, one down here, one to the left, one to the right. That's pretty much all a folio is. You can add a pocket if you want to. You can add an envelope. Whatever you want to add. So usually when I'm coming up with my folios, there's one thing in particular that I want the folio to have. In this case, I wanted to use these 4x4 cut-aparts from the paper collection to make a waterfall. So this is how it actually started, okay? So let me see what I do. Right here, the waterfall. I knew I wanted to use the 4x4 cards, and so I wrote down waterfall, and then I wrote down the size that I wanted to use the cards. Now, because I know I wanted to have a little bit of a border, which we have, I wanted it to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Why does that keep popping up? So I knew I needed that. So I wrote down 4 1/4. I know you can't see it, but I don't know why my edge keeps popping up. So I wrote down 4 1/4, and now I needed to add a 1/2 inch, so that way I had some way to attach my waterfall flip to my book. And so 4 1/4 plus a 1/2 is 4 3/4. So I know I needed 4 1/4 by 4 3/4, and I need to score on the long side a 1/2 inch. That gave me this flap. Okay, this one was easy to math out because it was a square. Now sometimes when it's a rectangle, you really have to think about which direction you're going to put your waterfall in. If your waterfall is vertical or horizontal, then you're going to have to decide which needs to be the longer side, with the extra 1/2 inch for the hinge. I do not know why this does not want to stay down. Okay. So that's what you have to do. Squares are easy to math out. You just add a 1/2 inch to one of the sides. And then that becomes the long side. All right, so then how I do mine is I take my pieces on a piece of grid paper and just pretend like these are all cut out the same. And I start to layer it down at the bottom, and then I do the next one 1/2 inch above that, and then the next one 1/2 inch before that, until I get to how many pieces I want, which in this case I wanted 5 pieces because I work in odds. And so when I laid them all out on my grid mat, that determine the height of my cover, because I want it to have a little bit of a border. I just added a little bit more. So my waterfall is looks like 6 1/8, but it was like 6. My waterfall was 6 by 4 1/4. So maybe it was 6 1/4. Yeah. Okay. It was 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And so I just added a 1/2 inch to make my cover page. So I knew that my cover page needed to be 4 1/2 by 6 1/2 to fit that waterfall. So this is what I did. So this is my book cover, my pages. So I know it was 4 1/2 by 6 1/2, so I can nicely fit my waterfall. Sometimes when I do folios, the paper measurement is really just saving paper, and whatever I can fit to save paper, that's what I'm going to do. But this time I specifically wanted to use these cards. So now I'm going to draw out my folio. I typically have 3 sections and 2 hinges like this. Okay. So I just drew it out. So I know I wanted my left to right to be 4 1/2 and my up and down to be 6 1/2. Now, my little page here, you can make it the same exact size, but I like the color block look, and so I always make my closure a little bit smaller. This one happened to be 3 1/2. My left to right. Okay. So then I have to worry about my hinges here, my gussets, right? My spine pieces. Sometimes I make them way too big. Sometimes I make them too small, and that's annoying. You're basically just going to have to guess because you haven't put your pages together yet. And I figured with a waterfall and an accordion, I was going to need a little bit more room. So I did my spine pieces at 3/4 of an inch. Sometimes I do them 1/2 inch, sometimes I do an inch, but I think 3/4 of an inch is going to be perfect. So now all you have to do is math that out, which I can already tell it's going to be bigger than a 12 by 12. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah. So I can already tell that. So I know I'm going to need to break it down into 2 pieces. So what I try to do is get my two sections plus my hinge into one piece of paper, and then the third piece can just be the add-on. So that's what I typically try to do. Sometimes you can't do that because depending on how big your book is. So for me, I'm going to add these 3 pieces up here, 4, 8, 9 3/4. And then over here, what these 2 pieces are, plus a 1/2 inch for my binding piece. So I'm just going to color that in. So this is going to be 1/2 inch right there. So 3 1/2 plus, well, 3 1/2 plus a 1/2, which is 4 3/4. Okay. So this one here ends up being 9 3/4 by 6 1/2, because the height, we already know what it was. And then this one ends up being 4 3/4 by 6 1/2. Okay, so now we need to figure out how we're going to score. Well, that's easy because we already know that the left to right is 9 3/4. So that's the long side. So we're going to say on the long side, we are going to score it at 4 1/2, because that's how big we want our piece to be. We're working on this piece right here. So let me show you this way. So we're working on these 3 sections here, this, this, and this. So we know we need this to be 4 1/2. So 4 1/2. We know we need this to be 3 1/2. So 3/4 of an inch. So you're just going to add 0.75 to your 4.5, which is 5.25. So now you have, let me cover this up with something. We're just working on this. So now you have your 4.5, you have your 3/4 inch, and this piece here should automatically be 4.5. So that is your pieces right there. That's your first piece, okay? Now on this second side that we're working on, this second piece, you need that 1/2 inch. So this one on the short side, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch, and then we need that 3/4 inch gusset. So 0.5 plus 0.75 equals 1.25. So now you have your two pieces that you can just put together using that 1/2 inch hinge, and no one can tell that these were two separate pieces after you mat. You could probably tell, let's see, right here. See that little, there's your hinge right there. That little black mark. That's the hinge. That's the 1/2 inch hinge right there. So unless you're looking super duper hard, you can't really see that. Okay. And then, you know, the waterfall, we already know what size we need, and then you're just gonna write however many waterfall pieces you want. So we know that's gonna go here. And then you're just gonna decide what you want to put on your left hand side, or if you want your waterfall here, or you know, wherever your placement is. So I just chose an accordion, and the size I chose, I wanted 4x6 pictures. So these each measure 4.25 by 6.25, so you can fit your full 4x6. And this accordion, all I did was, let's see, here's the accordion. I knew I could get two of the pieces out of one 8.5 by 11 sheet, because 8.5 divided by 2 is 4.25, right? So I took the little booklet. This is 8.5 by 6.25, and then I just scored it at 4.25 on the long side. And then this piece here, I made it, I just added two 1/2 inch pieces, so that way I could glue it to this part and glue it to this part and have an accordion. I know that sounds super confusing. I do have the full tutorial on this actual folio. I'll link it down in the description box, but that's just kind of how I do, trying to save paper where I can, hence why I did the three separate, well, the one little booklet and the separate piece of paper. If you wanted a flip and a flap, you would just measure what you want. In this case, I would have done 4.25 by 6.75 and scored it 1/2 inch, just so I could have a flip that comes up this way, you know, or you can have it come down, you know, however you want to do it. But that is just your choice, your folio one-on-one. The other choice is your closure. I typically do magnetic closures because they're easy. They can be a little costly because magnets, the ones that I use, are kind of expensive, but I just love how that sounds, how it feels. I'm not a ribbon girl. Matter of fact, I just sold all my ribbon. But you can do a ribbon closure. I know a lot of people like the seam binding. It looks absolutely gorgeous. You can do seam binding. You can do Velcro if somebody has like a, if you know you're giving these to somebody who has like a pacemaker, you cannot have the magnets, so use your Velcro. If you are making these for a craft fair, I would suggest do some Velcro, some magnets, just for that same reason. And your cover, don't go crazy decorating it, because most people are just going to put this in their purse, just kind of as a brag book or on their desk. You don't want anything too bulky if they're going to put it in their purse. You know, so decorate in your style. It's more cost efficient to do something simple like this. I just did a sticker from the sticker collection, collaged it with another sticker, and then added 3 little gems. But you can add whatever you want, obviously. A beautiful poinsettia would have been great, you know, however you want. Now the flap here. I typically tell people not to put anything here unless it's a small picture in between your magnets. But, you know, if you want to take the time to maybe make like a 2x3 little mat so people can see where to put their picture in between the 2 magnets. My magnet is here and here. You can do that. Same thing with the cover here. You know, I probably wouldn't put anything unless you want to put like a little something right in here or down, you know, down the exposed part. But I did double matte everything with some gold. Thought that looked really good. I didn't matte the spine pieces. I didn't feel like they needed it. You can add magnets to keep this closed. I'm not too bothered by it. Now for your waterfall, obviously if you use just plain paper, you can get more pictures. These cards, you know, they have words and so you can't really add anything on there. But I left the backs blank. If you're doing these for craft shows, I would suggest leaving all of it blank, the front and the back. Maybe on the first one, just put a copy paper photo mat on there. Maybe just decorate these pieces. That's your choice. And same thing with this. I matted here because that's where my connector piece was. And then you can have paper, picture, or 2x3s and then a 4x6. And then this one, I left 2 blank and I just kind of color blocked there. So if you wanted to have a magnet to hold it down, I would put the magnet here and here, or actually here. But then, you know, that's, you're using more paper, stuff like that. You can always do something super cute and do like a clip. Let me see, I have a paper clip. Just to kind of clip it in there. That's really cute. Kind of clip it to the bottom or the top. You know, put like a fun little decoration on there. And then you have an extra little clip. Oh, there you go. And you can clip a picture. You know, if you wanted to, like a smaller one. But your choices are endless. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.